one of the other projects I got going on while I'm working on the hood, I'm trying to get the trim cleaned up that goes on this truck. And most of the trim, after a good wash, didn't look too bad. As you can see here, this has just been cleaned, soap and water, but it still could look better. So I have in the past cleaned some aluminum trim and polished it. It has to be stripped because the trim comes with a anodized coating on it that protects it and makes it easier to keep clean. But over time, like say 20 or 30 years, the anodization will get a milky film to it. So even though it still looks okay, it doesn't look like it could look. So I've got the pieces soaking here in a solution with some stripper, and you can see this piece, this section here has not been stripped, and this is what it looks like when it strips it. And then once it's stripped, you rinse it off with clean water. And I've got a buffing wheel that I use with some compound, and this is how it comes out. And the trim, I would say, probably didn't look that good when it was new because it wouldn't have been this shiny. But this trim will now look nice on this truck once it goes back on. It would have been a shame to put all this trim back on in that cleaned condition on a truck with a nice new paint job. So I got a lot of trim to clean and a lot of trim to polish, and then we can start putting it back on the truck. Alright, continuing on with our trim restoration. I've cleaned these and I've used a solution to strip all the anodizing off so that the raw aluminum can be polished. And we're going to go through the steps on how you do that. First of all, you need a grinder with the special wheels. You can buy these kits through Eastwood or some other companies out there that sell the different buffing wheels and the compounds. And the compounds come in these brick-like pieces. And these are what you use to, you put this on your wheel as it's spinning. You load some up on there, and then you'll run your piece on there, and this is what cleans it up and polishes it. So I bought this polishing kit many years ago. I wanted to start doing my own stainless, and then I learned how to do the aluminum by stripping the anodizing off, because you can't polish the hard anodize that's on the surface of the factory aluminum trim. It's supposed to keep it from getting dull and looking bad, which over time it breaks down and it starts to cloud and it just looks really bad. So the only way to fix it is you strip it and then you polish it, and then you have to keep it cleaned and waxed, and or you know, you can polish it by hand at that point using an aluminum cleaner or polish. So what we're going to do, the pieces will get very hot, so I do wear gloves during this, some heavy leather gloves. And one thing I do get my grinder going. I want to clean my wheel up every now and then. I just use a screwdriver and try to run it across it. Gets all the dirty pieces out of the buffing wheel. And then I'll go ahead and load the wheel back up with this compound. And then we just take our piece, and you always want to hold your piece in position as the wheel's spinning, because this can grab it and fly across the room, or it can take it and bend it, then your piece is ruined. So you always want to buff off an edge. So your wheel wants to spin this way on this hard edge, because it can grab this edge and pull it right out of your hand. So we just take it and it really is quite amazing, the difference. As you can see, this is the buff part, and this is what I got after cleaning it, stripping the anodizing off. Again, this is another one of those things, another one of those details that you can do to a vehicle if you can get the equipment and do it yourself, take the time, that makes the difference in the way the vehicle is going to look when it's finished. Now if I'd have put this trim back on this way on the truck, yeah, it would have looked okay. It would have been clean. It looks better than it was when it came. But if I put it back on looking like this, there's just an immense difference in the way the truck is going to look with polished out trim all over the truck. So I've got about 20 more pieces to do. So I'm going to be at this most of the day, and probably bring it back when I've got the majority of the trim finished up. Okay, back to our trim polishing. I got most of the trim done for the truck. I got all the pieces for the bed done. So the second step in cleaning up this trim is I changed out my pad. As you can see, this is a lot softer pad, and I use a different compound. I'm using this white compound, and this helps clean up the pieces some, takes some of the swirl marks out. The other pad is more aggressive, and the compound is also a more aggressive compound. It's basically the same way. This just goes a lot quicker. You always want to, again, you polish off your edges, and this is the end result of what we're getting with the trim. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the truck and show you how we install the trim. Okay, on this trim, as you can see, I've got some of my trim put back on, and my upper piece put back on, and my wheel arch piece put back on. Basically, this piece, there are some plastic, they're called barrel clips, and they fit into the holes, and it's just a plastic piece, and the stud on the clip that's attached to this piece of trim is serrated, so it grabs into the barrel, and you basically just push them into the clips, and that's what holds that on. Now this piece of trim is held on by two different types of fasteners. It's got these plastic fasteners that attach to the pins that are in the body, and it also has one fastener that has a stud and a nut on the back side. So what we're going to do is we're going to install these, and I marked these top and bottom. So we're going to put these back on, and they slip over the stud, and then you push them forward and they clip on, so that holds that in place. So we'll go ahead and put these on. And the doors use these two along the bottom edge that holds the bottom trim on. So these, when I put these on the doors, because these are new doors and they don't have these studs welded to the body, these will get installed using a 1/8 inch pop rivet, and that'll attach them to the door all along, and that'll give me my clips to hold that piece on. So we'll go ahead and get this one here put on. There you go. That's the last one there. So that leaves 4 of these. And then, like I said, this also has a one piece that holds it with a stud and a nut. So what we need to do, we get our piece lined up. Now this piece slips over the end of our wheel arch, so we have to position this one retaining clip just so it'll sit in the right place. And you do that just by sliding the clip in the piece of trim to where you need it. It's a little bit, it looks pretty good right there. Alright, so then we'll reach around the back side, install our nut on our stud. And then the rest of these, they just pop onto these clips. Hear that all snap on. And that's going to leave our trim, our front trim piece installed. The rear trim piece attaches with 3 clips with the studs and the nuts in the back. Basically the same way. It goes over top of the very end of our wheel arch molding. I get the last piece put on back there. That'll leave this side of the bed all the trim put back on. And I tell you, that makes a big difference in the way that the truck looks with the new trim polished out to match the new shiny paint. This truck's going to be really nice when it's done. So that's going to be the end of my my trim video here. Again, this is something that you can do at home if you have access to a junkyard that has some older cars in it, and you want to go pick up a few pieces of trim. You can practice on those before you go ahead and attack your trim that's on your car that you want to finish. Just in case something happens to it, you're not ruining the trim pieces that got to go on your car, and then you're trying to find replacement pieces. These were all aluminum, so they had to be, the anodizing had to be stripped off and then polished. Stainless trim is pretty much done basically the same way, only stainless, there's no stripping needed. Stainless trim, you just go through a couple stages of polishing the stainless, and it'll come up looking just as beautiful as this. So again, thanks for following along on this segment of this restoration on this truck. And remember to share these videos, like, subscribe, hit that share button. Go ahead and hit the bell notification to see the rest of this. And I'll see you again soon.